So to make your job a lot easier, right? Maybe try to find a mock-up PSD file online using websites like these, like freepik.com, where you can find a bunch of downloadable assets. You can be bottles. I guess it can also be boxes. Maybe let's look at shoe boxes. Yeah, so shoe, right? Yeah. So you see, you will have wonderful files like this already if you were to download it. Let's see, this one I think has a little bit more size. So you can download this. See, and then if you use this for your final submissions, yeah, this is very important for you to credit the creator lah, this person who's known as 816, right, and try to use Harvard referencing to reference this particular website, so I know, like, okay, like you're not ripping off someone, but you actually downloaded a free and readily accessible Photoshop mockup file. Yeah, so you see, this all work more or less the same way, right? So you will have areas for you to place your actual personal designs, right? So this is a very good mockup because not only do they give you I mean, they've already kind of like shown you where you can put your logos and your instructions and so on and so forth. Yeah, so although this is a shoebox, I think this is quite serviceable as the product. I mean, as a packaging for like a whole bunch of different products. You can have toiletries in here. You can have clothing in here. You can also have like maybe even food in here. You just need to come up with your own label. So yeah, so you have to come up with this anyway. All right. So okay. So I think this is where to use Photoshop effectively, you're going to learn a few things. You're going to first learn how to make a label because that's very simple. You're basically just designing a rectangle or a square, and then you're adding in your titles or your product uh, name or your brand. You're adding in the logo, right? And then you may also add in instructions, especially if you are planning to do something food related, something like this. And then going forward, I realized a number of you guys have started sketching labels and packaging, right? So that's good. I would like for you to try to practice this shorthand. Okay, one is always whether in your sketches and therefore more easily translated in your mock-up designs, in your mock-ups, right? Always first draw the correct frame size. So if you know your label or your Facebook post or whatever is going to be square, in your sketches already create a square, right? Because if you're sketching and you create something a little bit longer, and when you translate it into Photoshop or PowerPoint or Canva or something, you know, you will find that you will give you more problems than it will be helpful with, right? Especially now as we are entering the prototyping stage, right? Because if your final format is square, right, and your sketches are not square, you're going to put in a lot of information that you take for granted, like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to have my instructions here, right? And then I'm going to have another list of bigger instructions here. Okay? But then when you come into Canva or Photoshop, right, or whatever, and you find that the format is square, where are you going to put this extra information? Right? Doesn't so it gives you more problems than it helps. Yeah. So actually, let's do this. Yeah. Okay. That's as far as I can go. Right. So, yeah. When and right now, I'm just going to come up with a very simple label, right? Uh, Okay, you know what? Maybe I'll do the label here on this box instead of this, right? Yeah. So yeah, you don't have to come up with a super elaborate label like this, right? Like this guy actually has like shiny special effects. It has like this silver foil texture in it. Please don't do this, right? Maybe try doing more stuff like this because these are these are more flat. You can tell, right? It's basically just some guy's words and then like how he made it look like it's blending in with the box is because whoever created this is very smart, right? Like they hang on, they you yeah so give me a minute. I think okay, they have filters since no, this is filter for the whole Photoshop. Okay, yeah, but yeah, there are a few ways that what you can do to make this look like you see like the words are kind of just blending in with the texture. So I can show you how to do that in short while. Okay. Actually, what is this? Okay. All right. So okay, see, so this is uh mockups, right? It's because if you have this particular icon on Photoshop, you can double click this. It will bring you to this file, and it already has the correct size of the canvas ready for you. So all you need to do is you just need to edit this, right? Just to make it suitable for your brand. Okay, so okay, okay, there is my PowerPoint. So here's what I'm going to try to do today. I'm going to try to create maybe a then no, that's too big. Right, I'm going to try to make a box. I'm going to uh okay, maybe I'll just do the top portion of the box here today, right? Okay. I'm thinking in my head this is packaging for maybe let's say toiletries, right? And this is for maybe the brand is called I don't know, maybe Sunny's, right? And the logo is going to be a sunflower. I'm going to have a lovely handwritten font called Sunny's, right? And then maybe a brief description here, right? And maybe some additional uh, instructions, right? So if you're sketching, right, and you want to create a shorthand, yeah, we like to whenever we have instructions, we like to use just straight lines like this. Yeah, if you're trying to write titles, yeah, then we have two lines, and then we do this, right? So yeah, when you're always sketching, always draw the correct frame size, and then use shorthands. So anytime you have a square with an X or a circle with an X, or even a triangle with an X, this normally means image, right? A series of thin lines, this means copy or instructions, the fine print basically. And then whenever you have this is a title. Okay? So for my title, it will be the product name, which is I don't know, let's call it uh, summer care. Okay. Yeah, so in the instructions, I will ideally in the real world, I will mention like sunscreen, moisturizer, maybe serum capsules, whatever. Right? But we don't have a lot of time, so we will. If you're just coming up with a mock-up, then we will just lorem ipsum it. You will see me use this dummy text later. Yeah. Okay. So this is one version. I will try to come up with more versions. Maybe I quite like the idea of centralized one. Okay. Or maybe let's go something else. Maybe it's just a bit of fun. Maybe we have the sunflower appear like the sun. Yeah. And then we can maintain the centralized grid. Okay, between 1, 2, and 3, which design do you guys prefer more? Something more generic, something in the middle, or number 3, which is a bit funny, right? Because we tend to draw as kids, right? We always draw the sun right at the corner. Okay, 1 for 3, 1 for 2. One more vote, tiebreaker. Okay, or maybe I can do both. Yeah, it's fine. All right. So okay. I quite like this drawing, so I'm going to open image in new tab. Okay, I'm going to save this image onto this. Okay. So uh, I will then open this up. So here we go. Come on. This is not working. Out of there. Okay. So remember when I said when you have a box or a circle, whatever, with an X, we understand that means image, right? Yeah. So this is translated also in popular softwares like Photoshop and Illustrator, right? Do you see that? It's a square with an X. All right. So now, um, I'm happy with this illustration because I think it suits the rustic looking aesthetic that I think that will benefit this brand. But I'm not happy with the fact that it has this white background, right? Because once you have this white background, uh, and let me just save this. Okay, you see, once you put this white background here, the white background shows up as well, and I don't want that. I just want this sunflower to be there. So this is this is what you can do, right? You can take your magic wand, right? Especially because you see this is a nice clean white background, right? And a very clear outline. So you can just click on the white background. You can see that these dotted lines have appeared, right? So this means that the white background is selected. And you come down here, right? In your layers palette, right? And you so I'm now looking at the sunflower file directly. I've turned off the words here, right? Right, I'm just looking here, and I'm just making sure that when I press the when I'm using the magic one, I'm only selecting the white area. Okay, and then I click mask. Right, this icon here down here, this means mask. Okay. Oh no, you've masked out the sunflower. Okay, not to worry. Do you see this? I'm selecting the mask, right? And the mask is kind of like a tool to hide things that you don't want to hide, right? So if this happens to you, it's very simple. You just press Control or Command I, and you will flip the mask, right? So now that it's hiding just the white area and the sunflower is shown. So I'm going to now save this file, and when you open up your mockup, there you go. You see the sunflower is now nice and neat there, without the white background, right? And because I've also hidden the text, right? That's why the text is also missing, right? Okay, so that's that. Right? Right. So I'm going to try number 3 first. Okay, okay. Now, to rotate your file, what you need to do, sorry, so to rotate your file, you just need to press, maybe better if I write there, yeah, right. So Control T. So when you press Control T, you see this bounding box will appear, and then you can rotate it just like you can rotate files in Word or PowerPoint, no problem, right? And if you want to shrink it, right, you need to hold down the Shift key, and if you're using older versions of Photoshop, you need to hold down the Shift key. If you're using a newer version of Photoshop, like I think 2018 or 2019, you just hold down the corner here, and then you can shrink it accordingly, right? Or you can enlarge it. So I'm just going to put this here. I'm going to make this really outsized one here. Maybe a bit better if I put the leaves up there. There we go. Alright. Yeah. So you see, because I haven't saved anything yet, right? The old design is still what you see here, right? So if I were to save this, right, with my handwritten Control T, that's why it shows up there. Okay. Now I realize that my masking has not been very neat, right? Because you can still see the white borders of the file a bit, right? Um, there, you can see that there, right? Okay. So the nice thing about masking, as opposed to using the eraser tool, is that if you were to erase something, you know, if you erase something, right, it will be permanent, right? And if I've already saved my file, no matter how many times I press Control X sometimes, right, it won't, or if I were to undo, which is Control or Command Z, it won't ever disappear. I mean, it won't ever reappear. Sorry. So that's why it's always good to mask. Because when you use masking, right, like you see this white color, yeah, you can see this white color border here, like this very tiny white border. Right? This means, if I were to take my brush tool and if I were to make it black, I can just paint out the offensive white border. Yeah, if you can't see, if you can't see it here, it's a little bit too difficult to differentiate the white border from the gray and white background. Or normally, if you see this checkered background, it means you're looking at a transparent file. What you can do is you can open a new layer by coming again to your layers panel and pressing this button here, and bring it down, right? And open a paint bucket, right? And choose any other color except for this particular this white color, right? Drop the paint bucket in, and boom, right? So now you can see very clearly, that there is this two very like irritating white lines here. Okay, so if I were to take my brush tool, and if I were to double click on the color here, change it to black, I can, oh, sorry, right? And then, yeah, and move my selection away from the blue background to the mask on the sunflower, right? So this is the sunflower image, this is the mask, right? I can now paint out the offensive white borders. Yeah. Okay, so, all right. So once I save my file, let's go back here. You notice the white borders are gone. Yay. All right. So now I'm going to use this new layer, right? And I'm going to uh, double tap on it to label it text, so I will know that this is a layer for my information. Okay. So I'm now going to use the text tool, right? And okay, maybe I'll just keep the white, I mean the blue color background up temporary so you can see what you're typing. Okay. Ah, all right. And yeah, so now you have text, and if you double click it, you can edit it, and once you press enter, you can make a new line. You can press backspace. Yeah, so like a normal like what you would normally do with text in Word or PowerPoint, right? So yeah, I can every time I want to write a new text, I will just click on the text tool like this, right? And right. Now, let's say you find, oh, this is too big, miss. This is not a good size, right? What do I do, right? So this is where you can take your text tool, select the whole line by pressing Control A or Command A, right? And then you can change your size by reducing it up here, right? And you can also change the color here because I think it would be nice if this is black or maybe gray. Yeah, okay, this kind of gray would be nice, right? Okay, and if you want to move this around, sorry, if yeah, so every time if you're done editing, you just press escape, right? And that will come, I mean, it will reset to its default. And if you want to move it around, you can just select this move tool up here, or you can press the shortcut key of V, and you can move it now, right? If you don't want to, if let's say you're not sure what font size you want to use precisely, you can also use Control T here, like what we did with resizing the flowers, and we can move it up and down to resize, right? So every time you resize, just please click on the corner here, right, to resize it, right? If you were to click on these on the side, right, sometimes this will happen. You will you will squish your words, right? Or you will squish your words like this, right? Try not to do that because it makes it very difficult to read. Okay, like for example, let me try to squish this for you. You see that? That's impossible to read. So please don't do that, right? So every time you resize your text, a good practice. Anytime you resize your text, okay, sorry, it's selected the background again for some reason. So I'm working on this. I will select this. So every time you resize, right, always make sure you resize it proportionally, right? So if you're using a newer Photoshop, this means just clicking on a corner and dragging it up and down, right? Or if you have an older version of Photoshop, right, you need to hold down the Shift key, and then you can drag the corner, right? This white color points, right? Yeah, just grab the corner point and move it up and down. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, now I think I will resize Sunny's. Okay. There we go. Okay, and I would like to change the font. I want a handwritten font, and I think my favorite handwritten font is TypeScript for now. Okay, so Control T, maybe we'll make this bigger. Okay, and we'll make this black. Yeah, so you can change the color of the text in many ways. You can change it up here, or you can change it here. But I usually prefer to change it there. Right. Cool. Okay, so let's say I want to do something a bit funny, right? Let's say I want uh, the Y from Sunny's to be in front of the care kit. So I can do that by rearranging the text uh, by clicking and dragging it on the top. So you see? Yeah, so this is what we can do, right? You can, when you rearrange when you rearrange anything on this in this layers, right? Anything on the very very top of the list will be on the very top of everything here, right? So let's say I were to move my sunflower just for fun, just to show you, right? You see, because the sunflower is at the bottom, or it is underneath sunnies and summer care, that's why this is also at the bottom, right? If I were to bring it on top, the words are now completely hidden. Okay, now, okay, so since we're moving this file around and we still see the offensive white border, right, I will continue and I will use the brush tool and the black color, make sure it's loaded with black, right? Open, select the masking layer, and then I will paint it back up. Now, masking is great because if I were to, let's say, flip the colors of my brush to white, you see that? I can paint back the things that I have already erased. You can't do that with the eraser tool, yeah? Mr. Eugene showed you guys masking the other day, right? He didn't show you guys eraser tool, right? Did he show you masking or erase in intro to multimedia the other day? Masking is off, great. Alright. Okay, another nice thing about masking is that if you were to change the type of brush that you're using, right? So let's say right now I'm using a hard brush, right? But if let's say I were to use a soft brush, so this looks like kind of like an airbrush, you know? And if I were to paint back, do you see? It also paints back in a very airbrush style. So this is very good if let's say you're trying to brush away, like like this is a very sharp image, right? It's a very very sharp and clear image, right? The edges are very sharp. So that's why if we are masking, yeah, so you see, this kind of images, it's good that we use a hard brush. If let's say we want to like spend a bit of time to uh yeah, spend a bit of time to very finely mask out the white border that is now for some reason automatically around this image. So yeah, so but if let's say you were to if you were to use something like a Chinese painting, right? It's Chinese ink, like like ink. Like let's say you want to try to use something like this for your logo, right? You can use the hard brush to kind of mask out the branches, but let's say when you're trying to mask out this very soft areas with like the mountains, yeah, you can't use the hard brush, you have to use the soft brush. And when you use the soft yeah, so we can use the soft brush to kind of get like this misty effect that they have made quite beautifully here. Yeah, so yeah, choose the correct brush for what you're masking on. Okay, so I'm just going to continue masking this. All right, and since we're here, there we go. Okay, yeah. The nice thing about masking is that if you make a horrendous error like this, like, oh my god, I've accidentally masked out my most important sunflower or whatever it is that you're masking. If you change your mask color to white, you can bring it back again. And then let's do black. So we use the size of our brush, go around the sunflower. Zoom in by pressing Ctrl plus if necessary and reducing the size of your brush to try to mask this up nicely. And then bring white to bring back the details that you've accidentally masked out. Okay. So that's why masking is cool. Masking is the best. Okay, so I'm going to put this back here. Alright, so press enter every time you want to commit your changes. after resizing and whatnot. Okay. So, okay, you can also select multiple objects, right? Like you see this, I've clicked on Sunny, I've held down Shift and clicked the summer care kit, right? And now I can press Control T to move both of them together. Let's enter, right? And let's say, I did say, right, I wanted to have instructions underneath that. So I'll open a new layer. I'll grab the text tool. Sorry. Right. And okay, I'm going to now change this font size here. Maybe that's easier. Yeah. So you can just keep writing whatever you need manually, right? But the best thing about instructions is I would recommend that is that you already have a, a, a file, right? Like a written file with all your instructions. Because especially if you can write this down in Word, Microsoft Word, right? Because Microsoft Word will help you catch the mistakes and whatnot very clearly, right? So you can do this. So this is just a very quick example, yeah. All this, right? Let me put it here. Okay. In case this funny thing happens, like oh wow, miss, why is this space in between the letters so big, right? No problem. Press go back to your text tool, right? Select everything, right? And then you come up here, right? You will find this menu here. This is the character menu, right? And this is where you can change the size or the type of script, whether you want to if you have like italic or bold or whatever, you can also change it here. Right, now this very big space is happening is because this is set at 36, right? Usually it's set at auto, right? So you see the spacing is nice, just nice. You can always increase it. I say this is a font size 10, so let's say I want a little bit more space in between my instructions, right? I can always change it to bigger size, right? Or if I want it tighter, I can do this. This is what we call the leading, right? The spaces in between one sentence to the next. Right. Another way you can do this is right. Yes, you can come to the lorem ipsum generator, right? And it will create this bunch of gibberish words, right? It's actually Latin, right? You just come up, but this is a traditional thing that graphic designers do. Like whenever we have a body of text that's supposed to be very elaborate, like instructions, right? So rather than write down this very, if you don't already have the instructions ready, you can just paste lorem ipsum in there, right? And if you find that this happens, and it's really annoying, right? Uh, there is another way to do text, which is you can take the T tool, click and hold, and drag so you have a text box in the correct size, right? And then the newer versions of Photoshop will automatically fill it with lorem ipsum text for you, right? If you're using an older version, then you kind of have to do this stuff. You have to come to loremipsum.com and generate this text yourself. So you see, so if you ever wondered why when you open up a text box in Photoshop and it does this funny text, now you know, right? So with all my text selected, I don't want it to be such a big font size. So yeah, a good habit is that if you're writing instructions or body copy, try to keep your font size to 10 or to 11. Right, so I'll just stick to 10 here. Right, if you use font size 8 and 9, you're all the way to font size 5. This is for very small fine print. This is for terms and conditions size information, you know, the sort that you'll find at the bottom of any contract or form or competition entry document. Yeah, so titles are best when they are like, you know, font size 12 and up, right? So but all of this normally depends on like the size of your web page or your box, right? But rule of thumb, font size 10, 11 is best for reading. If your audience is older, then use font size 11 or 12. Yeah, because your older audiences have difficulty reading small text, right? Anything under 10, this is for fine print. Okay, yeah. So I have my text. I just need to change the lettering back to auto, right? And voila, right? So I can just quickly cheat in a way, right? By making this look like instructions by yeah, okay, fine. And then you can also do this with text, which is quite nice. When you have all your text selected, right? Okay, you can click on your color palette, and let's say instead of black, I want to change it to gray, right? I can do this. Oh, okay. Doesn't seem to be working for this version of Photoshop. That's okay. So we can just go to no? Okay. Ah, okay. So this is a feature that's changed. The older version of Photoshop allowed you to actually just pick colors directly from another font. Oh well, that's okay. So so this is the reason why when you guys are choosing colors for your brand, especially if you want to do digital uh versions of your mockups, or instead of hand drawn or handmade stuff, right? It's important for you guys to make sure that you get the correct color code. So let's say match uh, I want to match the color of this instructions to the gray text under summer kit, right? So I would need to take the eyedropper tool, click on the gray here, then double click on this gray color, and you see that the RGB numbers is 58, 58, 58. The CMYK is 69, 62, 61, 52, right? So it's okay as long as you're keying in this red, green, and blue values correctly. So I'll think I'll use this one for now, 58, 58, 58, right? So see, now it's black, right? This is 0. So let's change to 58, 58, 58. Press OK. Okay, then you get the exact color that we're looking for. Okay, so let me just bring this up a bit here. I think this is a little bit better. That's okay. Let's see. Oops. Let me hide that blue layer and then save. And voila, you will have your packaging done for you, right? And you didn't even have to worry about making the perspectives and whatnot. I mean, you can do this manually if you want to. Like you can, let me just save this as a separate PNG file, right? Right. You can if you really want to. If you really want to, you can find a blank box all on your own like this, right? And you can uh, drag your PNG file in here, right? And then press the tick to commit the file here, right? And you can press Control T and then hold down Shift if you're, I mean, hold down Alternate. Sorry, hold down Control. Yes, hold down Control. Control, yeah, and then manually move the points onto the flat surface of your box if you want to. And you press enter. You can also do that, right? But you need to get the correct frame size and you need to do everything on a separate file and then you save it as PNG. Save as a PNG, because if you save it as a PNG as opposed to a JPEG, right, you will preserve the transparent layer, right? Yeah. So and then you can manually kind of you know, I'll do that again. Okay. Right. So like if you have your file, then you press Control T to start to free transform it. Hold down the Control key and move the corner points to match the corners of your box. You can totally do that. So let's say I want to make it fit on this side of the box. You can totally do that too. Control T. Here and here. Right? Yeah. So you see, you can totally do that. And it's a bit weird because you know the this box lid is cutting right through the graphic, and you're supposed to be able to see the box instead of the graphic so clearly, but whatever. Alright, so yeah, so this is why trying to get a very nice mockup, right? And then you can just do this once, right? And then have your designs show up here, right? Okay. So if you have um like in this particular file, the person who created this file is really nice. He actually allows you to change the color of the box, right? So you can do that by just clicking here on this. You can just double click on this square here. Do you notice it's a square with a like kind of a gray slider box here? This tells me that this is a very special mask layer. This is a color mask layer, right? And how you can do this here, right? It's kind of like this. It's kind of like just now what I did with the bucket tool, right? But you can just do this. You can, instead of clicking on the mask layer, you click on this layer. This is the adjustments layer. Press solid color, right? And then you can set whatever color you want it to be. So maybe let's change this to yellow. Okay. So you can do this too. You can add your color here, and you will see that it's changed here, right? So maybe you can just change one side of the box to be this particular color, right? But if let's say this guy is this whoever that created this fake box for you very generously uh, gave you your own solid color layer here. So I can select this and I can change the color of my box as well. Okay, yeah, actually maybe this is quite nice. Okay, so we press OK. Right, so there you have it. This is the reason. Yeah, so you can also change your background color. Maybe instead of pink, I would like it to be a bit more uh, yellow. So yeah, so that's what you can do. Right. So if you're happy with this, you can already save it. Right. So I'm calling it mockup1. Okay. Okay. Now let me save this as a second file, right? Because you guys wanted to see different layouts, right? Okay, so now it's background 2. Right. So again, you see, this is why it's you can. Yeah, I love using Photoshop or Illustrator for mockups, right? Because remember, we wanted to have one of these and one of these, right? So I'm going to do this one now. So you see, you don't have to make the file from scratch. You just save it as a separate file, make your changes, right? Okay, maybe this is a bit too big for this font. Okay. Yeah. Ah, okay, that's nice. Right. Control T, hold down Shift, drag corner, and save. And then voila. See? You have another layout already. You press Control Save. Right? And then when you want to pass up your work and Miss Chi is going to ask you for JPEGs, right? You can just export it as instead of Photoshop file, you save it as a JPEG file. And that's safe. That's okay. So let's open up the previous one, the mockup one. So this layout, and we save it as JPEG as well. Okay. So now we have oh, wrong file. Sorry. Oh, I saved it as a JPS file. Sorry, yeah. Hang on. Just delete this. Alright. So save as JPEG, not JPS. JPEG. Save. Okay. Alright. So now you have two JPEG files. This is one. This is one version. This is the other version. Right. So you can very quickly take this and plonk this all into a PowerPoint file, or you can open up your mockups like this, and then you can discuss among yourselves like, oh, okay, I think this is better because it's a lot easier for us to translate. Sorry, this layout into bottles or smaller packagings, right? Or some people are saying, no, this is kind of better. This is kind of cuter, right? A sun in the corner, and it's more personality, blah blah blah. All right. So yeah. Any questions so far for using Photoshop? And mockups? Remember to save often. Yes. If you have a very old computer, and you might find that your Photoshop will crash often. But it can be solved if you hang on. Let me change edit. Okay. You go to edit under preferences. You go to general. Okay, and from there you search scratch disks. Right. Now, it's always good for you to install Photoshop on a computer that has more than one hard drive, right? So my computer currently just has only one hard drive because I'm still waiting for my second hard drive to come. I've ordered it. It's taking a while to reach me, right? But let's say you have two drives, right? So and you have Photoshop installed on your C drive. Always assign the secondary drive as a scratch disk, right? So what a scratch disk is it's kind of like the temporary memory that Photoshop uses to process your information. So if you have a really old computer, you don't have enough RAM, you have a very bad graphic or video card, less than 2 GB is considered really bad nowadays. So try to get 4 if you can. Yeah, so if you but if you can't change anything about your computer hardware and you find Photoshop is still crashing, if but you have a secondary hard disk at hand, right? Like you have a D drive or a E drive or F drive or whatever you have. Assign the drive that you use least often, and so tick it as the scratch disk, right? And try to tick it, try to assign the secondary drive as the scratch disk. So if anything goes wrong on the C drive, the D drive is still it keeps a backup version lah, in a way, of your Photoshop file, right? So this is applicable, I think, for Photoshop CS6 onwards. Yeah. So if you're still using CS6, then uh, it's not very good at saving backup files. So. But anything after CS6, yeah, the backup files are great. Like your computer crashes, you open up Photoshop again, it will automatically load the backup file from the scratch disk. Okay. Yeah. So you see this? I only have one disk, so it's actually quite dangerous for me because if anything happens to my C drive, that's it, baby. Yeah. Yeah. But there you go. Right. So yeah, I've recorded this lecture. I will upload it shortly. So if you want to try doing this yourself after this class, right, I will give you the files. I will give you the sunflower image as well, so you can also kind of practice masking and whatnot, right? Yeah. So yeah. So this is why I said very early on in this semester, I'm okay with you guys using Canva. I'm okay with you guys using like the mockup files, like the one that we just looked at, right? Free pick. Uh, right. So I'm okay. You can use mockup files for your T-shirts, for applications. Like maybe let's say you want to use Instagram to promote your brand. Because a number of you that ask me, do we use only digital advertisements for this project, or can we use printed? Right. Uh, yeah. So you can totally use like this is a mock-up for a poster, right? Like you see, they have this very cute like clips here, so you could just change whatever you need to inside here, and it looks like a very nice poster for you to hang up, right? Yeah. So yeah. Oh, this is vector. All right. Don't use vector, right? This is okay. You can download this, but this is to EPS files or AI files. Is meant for Illustrator, right? Yeah. So if you're comfortable with Photoshop, then make sure that before you download, you see PSD file, right? Yeah. So I'm fine with you using this because I think it will save you a lot of time and a lot of heartache. Yeah. Oh, why is it so in EPS? Goodness. Right. But is this? Nope. Still EPS. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, no, make sure you get the right file format, right? If Photoshop only opens PSD, so please use that, right? I don't think it can open EPS. If it does, I don't think it opens it up properly. Yeah, but yeah. So whatever format that you choose, yeah. But because the main thing is, I want to see how you guys come up with this part, right? With this original brand idea, how you're going to translate your instructions clearly, so if someone were to buy your product fresh off the shelf, they would know how to use it without having a salesperson tell them what to do, right? So yeah. Okay, so yeah. Okay, I'll stop the recording here, and then we can begin our discussions.